Welcome to another edition of Back to the Basics, where we're still discussing the Great Deception. This is Elisha, your friend, your brother, and companion in the gospel. It is again an honor and a privilege to be able to come to you with the words of Yahuwah, the words of Yahushua HaMashiach. As always, my prayer that all who listens to this podcast will be gaining greater wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the full truth. For you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make us free. Bearing in mind that the truth hurts. That in mind, let us pray. Heavenly Father, in the name of Yahuwah, we come again thanking you for yet another day. Thank you for holding us in the palm of your hand, never leaving us, nor do you forsake us. Thank you for opening our eyes of our understanding, that we may be enlightened. Teach us to be bold as a lion, but yet harmless as a dove, as you reveal to us these truths, and we share with our family and friends. This is my prayer. Amen. In our last lesson, we started part 1 of the new series, the Yahushaic Covenant, Melchezedek and the Passover Lamb, with the subtopic, the overview of the Zodiac priesthood. In this lesson, part 2, we'll continue with that topic. We concluded the last lesson with this statement: the overview of the Zodiac priesthood. When we are done, we'll have a total new view of the man who's the Messiah and why he was executed. Before we investigate the heritage and human bloodline of the Messiah and his lineage, coming down from the house of Zadok, which is the high priest to King David, we must first have a basic knowledge of the priesthood that was established in Zadok. Zadok, in Hebrew Tzedek, meaning righteous, was a priest descended from Eleazar, the son of Aaron, which is the anointed line from which all high priests must descend. The high priest Zadok aided King David during the revolt of his son Absalom and was instrumental in bringing King Solomon to the throne. After Solomon had the first temple in Jerusalem constructed, Zadok was the first high priest to serve in the temple of Solomon. Those of the line of Zadok are called Zadokites or Zadok priests, and are the only ones qualified to serve in the office of high priest over Israel. This is paramount, because if Yahushua is to be the eternal high priest, he must come from the bloodline of Zadok. If Yahushua is to be qualified to offer the final sacrifice of the Passover lamb, he must have been from the house of Zadok. If he was not, then he's not the Messiah. The Zadok priesthood established itself in the time that King David fought against the revolt of his son Absalom. Zadok was a Levite high priest who descended down from Aaron through Eleazar. Only descendants of Aaron through Eleazar could be high priests. The entire tribe of Levi was chosen to be temple priests, but not all could be high priests, as the Dead Sea Scrolls indicate. Zadokites were to be as one of the following: one in following the law and sharing the wealth and reconciling based on the mouth of the sons of Zadok, the keepers of the covenant. You can learn more about the line of the priests descending from Zadok at this website. The Hebrew Bible records how before his death, Aaron was accompanied by his brother Moshe and his sons Eleazar and Ithamar. Upon entry into the cave where he was to die, Aaron saw his brother Moshe dressed his elder son Eleazar with the garments of the high priest of Moshe. Moses anointed Eleazar the successor of Aaron as high priest of Israel. Yahudish or Jewish commentaries on the Bible say that this initiation ceremony served as the catalyst for the stipulation that all future candidates of high priesthood be patrilineal descendants of Eleazar, the elder son of Aaron, not Ishtar, the younger son. This is the line that flows through Zadok, the high priest, who served David and Solomon. This is the bloodlinage that flowed through the veins of both Yochanan, John the Baptist, and Yahushua, the Messiah. You can go to Hebrews 5, 1 through 10, and you can see what I'm talking about. Zadok was a patrilineal descendant of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the high priest. You can look that up in 2 Samuel 8 and 17 and 1 Chronicles 25 and 3. The lineage of Zadok is presenting in the genealogy of Ezra, his descendants, as being of the 9th generation and direct patrilineal descent from Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, in Ezra 7, 1 through 4. Similarly, the Hebrew Bible relates how at the time Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, appeased Yahuwah's anger. He merited the divine blessings of Yahuwah. Let's read that, Numbers 25, 13. Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, behold, I give to him my covenant of peace, and will be his progeny after him. Covenant of everlasting priesthood, in turn of his zealousness for his Elohim, and he hath atoned for the sons of Israel. This is extremely important when tracing the right of Yahushua to be the eternal high priest. Yahushua must have come from the lineage of Zadok, which is the bloodline of the high priest prepared for him, and to which is entrusted the covenant of peace, the covenant of eternal high priest, and the right to atone for sin, as it is defined in Numbers 25 and 13 we just read. If Yahushua cannot be proven to be a Zadok high priest from the bloodline of Zadok, then he cannot mediate the new covenant of peace. He cannot serve as eternal high priest, and he has no authority to be the sin offering and atone for humanity. It is the coverage, the convergence of the bloodline of David through Solomon and the house of Zadok that resulted in the ruling Zadok or Melchezedek. When looking back at the history of the Zadok high priest, we find this. The high priest of King David and King Solomon was Zadok. The first high priest in the temple of Solomon was Zadok. The last high priest to serve in the temple of Solomon was Yahushaic, or Yahushua. The first high priest in the temple of Herod was Yahushua III from the house of Zadok. The high priest at the time of Yahushua the Messiah was Yahushua ben Say, or Yahushua the fifth from the house of Zadok. The eternal high priest Yahushua the Messiah is from the house of Zadok. Now we're beginning to see the pattern. From the time of Yahushua's birth forward, the high priest of Israel becomes totally corrupt. After the death of Yahushua III at the hands of Herod, Yahushua chose and anointed as high priest Yachanan, John the Baptist, the first male heir to the high priest Yahushua III. Yachanan, John the Baptist, then anointed Yahushua the Messiah as the eternal high priest, because Yahushua was the next heir after Yachanan, John the Baptist, to Yahushua III. From that point on, the temple high priesthood was literally purchased from Rome by aspiring high priests, and then ultimately the high priest was not even chosen from the bloodline, but by casting lots. In 70 AD, the temple of Herod was completely corrupt, and the high priest Phinehas was Samuel, who was serving at that time, was not even the bloodline of Levi, much less Aaron and Zadok. We see from the Yahudish history, the state of the priesthood at the time of the temple was destroyed. When you see how corrupt that temple had become, the question isn't how could Yahuwah allow this destruction, but rather what took so long. Phinehas ben Shamuel, 70 CE, was the last Yahudish or Jewish high priest. He did not originate from a priestly family, but was a zealot and the leader of the revolutionary forces. He died during the destruction of Herod's temple in 70 CE in order to see how far their power extended. The zealots undertook to dispose of the high priesthood by casting lots for it. Whereas we have said already, it was to descend by succession in a family. The pretense they made for the strange attempt was an ancient practice, while they said that of old it was determined by lot. But in truth, it was no better than a dissolution of an undeniable law and a cunning contrivance to seize upon the government, deprived from those that presumed to appoint governors as they themselves pleased. Whereupon they sent for one of the pontifical tribes, which is called Enachim, and cast lots which of it should be the high priest. By fortune, the lot so fell as to demonstrate their iniquity after the plainest manner, for it fell upon one whose name was Phinehas, the son of Shemuel, or Samuel, of the village of Hethuba. He was a man not only unworthy of the high priesthood, but did not well know what the high priesthood was. Such a mere rustic was he. Yet did they hail this man. Without his own consent, out of the country, as if they were casting a play upon the stage and adorned him with a counterfeit thee. They also put upon him a sacred garment, and upon every occasion instructed him what he was to do, because he didn't have a clue what the priesthood was about. This horrid piece of wickedness was sport and pastime with them. Now, this is how Josephus put it. Which was a historian back in that day. The reason for the total destruction of the high priesthood in Israel after Yahushua took the position as Melchizedek is that the role was eternally spoken for. Yahushua was the last true Zadok high priest. From that point forward, the priesthood collapsed after the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. It has never existed again because it has been transposed in the Ruach, or the Spirit, in the Yahushaic covenant. And we'll cover this in detail later. Now let's look at the messianic expectations of the time of Yahushua's birth. First, it is important to understand the time in which Yahushua was born in this world. The atmosphere that existed 2,000 years ago in Israel was one of heightened messianic expectations. The Yahudans, or the Jews of the house of Yahudah, had been miraculously released from Persian captivity by the Persian king Cyrus. Cyrus gave the command for the Yahudans, or the Jews, as prophesied, to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple of Yahuwah in preparation for the coming Messiah at the beckoning of the prophet Daniel. Cyrus did not want to face the same fate of Nebuchadnezzar. The prophet Daniel even laid out the place, the time, and manner of the Messiah's birth from the date Cyrus gave command to rebuild Jerusalem and the temple. That time had arrived in Israel for the Messiah to be born, and it was foretold to be at the time of Yahushua's birth. Where was it foretold? In the original revelation that was written in the stars, the Maserat, the zodiac, the heavenly scroll. Simply put, the time was at hand for the coming of the Messiah, and everyone knew it. Both those who were seeking the Messiah and those who were seeking to destroy him. It wasn't done in secret. Knowing all this, the right-wing Torah faithful, Yahudish or Jewish zealots of the north region of Galilee, the Davidian zealots, those preserving the line of David, and the high priest Yahushua III, the heir to the house of Zadok, were all carefully cultivating the bloodlines in preparation for the birth of the Messiah. King Herod was aware of these efforts. As a result, tensions were building between these factions and King Herod. This coming Messiah or King of Israel was a direct threat to the throne or the Roman-backed King Herod's throne. King Herod, in response to the heightened state of urgency in Israel of the coming Messiah, responded by a full implementation of his programs that was designed to eliminate all descendants of the Davidian dynasty, because everyone was aware of the original revelation that was written in the stars that prophesies of the coming Messiah. It wasn't a secret. These descendants were called the Lions of Judah and was considered princes of Israel. These programs were also used to eliminate the Maccabees, who ruled Judea before Herod, and even the Zadokite priestly line, or Zadok priest. Herod was taking no chances. This was a very chaotic time in Israel's history, because the Romans had defeated the Persians, and the favor of the Yahudans to dwell in the land safely and rebuild Jerusalem and the temple had faded under Roman control. So the throne of Herod was anything but secure. The Messianic, Davidic, and Maccabean opposition to King Herod in Israel is the context within the atmosphere that Yahushua was born. Now it becomes clear why King Herod ordered the execution of all male children under 2. The time was right for the Messiah, and the bloodline were being cultivated to bring him into the world, as the prophecy foretold that was written in the stars. Herod first attempted to selectively kill the Lions of Judah and the Zadokite priests, but when he found out that the king had been born, he panicked, and in desperation, he killed every child, regardless of bloodline, who were under 2 years old, including his own sons. With this historical context in mind, let us now examine the lineage of Yahushua the Messiah through Princess Miriam, which is Mary, and Prince Yasser, which is Joseph. The parents of Yahushua were chosen in an arranged marriage to produce the Messiah according to the flesh, in keeping with royal and priestly bloodlines. Now, I know a lot of coming at you, but I want you to go back and listen to this real intently. I want you to take your time so that Yahuwah can give you full revelation of what you heard. This is a good place to stop. Join me for our next lesson, the Yahushaic Covenant, Melchizedek and the Passover Lamb, Part 3, where we'll discuss the subtopic, the royal and priestly line of Miriam. If you're listening to this podcast, just know without a doubt that we are in the hour of the Great Awakening, where Yahuwah is gathering back to himself the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now, because there may be some new people listening, someone asked me a question the other day. How do you know if I'm one of the lost sheep of the house of Israel? He said, I know that I love Yahuwah and the Torah, and I keep the Sabbath. I told them that that is the very indication that you are one of the lost sheep of the house of Israel, because Yahuwah has written his laws on your heart. And when you hear the message of the law, the Ruach HaKodesh, or the Spirit of Yahuwah, quickens that truth that you heard, that's written in his law, that is written in your heart, that caused you to respond to the message of the law. That's how Yahshua identified the lost sheep of the house of Israel who were living among the Gentiles in his day, because they responded to the law that was written in their hearts. Remember, Yahushua was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, of whom Yahuwah had scattered into all Gentile nations, not to the whole world. And let's be specific. The only nationality of people that have been scattered to every nation according to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, is what is called today black people. Those who have been enslaved and oppressed even to this day. However, there's another group of people that Yahuwah will identify and also receive an inheritance from those lost sheep of the house of Israel, because the oppressor will now become the oppressed. And they are the Gentiles, the good stranger, those who are not the lost sheep of the house of Israel, but join themselves with Israel by humbling themselves and accepting the laws and ordinances of Yahuwah in their hearts. So it is my prayer that this truth will reach all who believe it, receive it, and live it. But to do that, you must be bold as a lion, but yet harmless as a dove. Again, I want to thank all of you who've been listening to this podcast from day one. I know that your life has been changed forever, just like mine and many others. And to you who maybe just found this podcast today, I want you to know it's not by happenstance that you found this podcast, but it's rather by divine appointment. Because you had questions and answers, questions that you didn't have any answers to. And you was hungering and thirst after the righteousness of Yahuwah. And I'm here to tell you, you're here because Yahuwah had a divine appointment for you to be a part of this podcast, that you can receive greater revelation. And if that is you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can get all the lessons that you missed. I know this lesson is good and it piqued your interest, but I want you to, when you subscribe, to toggle down to the very first lesson. And I want you to listen to each lesson in sequence from number 1 to where we are today. And I guarantee you, your life will never be the same. Again, don't forget to leave your comments. Your comments are very important to me. I respond to each and every comment. Some of your comments have blessed me tremendously, and I thank you for sharing. Again, if you'd like to follow along with me in this new series, I recommend you get this book, The Yahushaic Covenant, Melchizedek and the Passover Lamb by Rav Shaul. This is Elisha, your friend, your brother, and companion in the gospel. Until next time, be blessed.